Whoever has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and closes his heart of compassion against him, how does the love of God remain in him? My little children, let's not love in word only, or with the tongue only, but in deed and in truth. 1 John, the 3rd chapter, verses 17 and 18. In a nutshell, actions speak louder than words. I'm sure the vast majority of my audience would agree with this, but in today's video, I need to take issue with somebody that I mostly agree with on a lot of issues, but recently they've come out and made statements that are factually incorrect and show a lack of understanding about the difference between actions and words. I'm sure all of us have had this experience where we've had somebody in our life telling us all the right things, giving us the lip service, but when we observed the actions from a distance, we saw a completely different thing. Or when we looked into the past actions of that person, we saw, boy, that doesn't really agree with what they're saying now. Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, the vast majority of her take on the world I agree with. And I've shown support for her on this channel multiple times. However, recently she has come out and said something, and it makes a greater point. There's a much greater issue beyond the specific thing that she said. I want to share it with you in today's video because I think it will be instructive and helpful going forward. This is an attack on her personally. I think just in one moment, she had a little bit of myopia. She couldn't quite see the forest for the trees. Recently, on her Twitter account, she outs Nancy Pelosi for house hunting in Florida. Quote, Nancy Pelosi went house hunting last week in South Florida. She was actually on my plane. She wants to retire in Florida to enjoy low taxes, mask-free hair salons, and Republican freedom policies while literally destroying all these good things for the quote-unquote American people. She continues, some would laugh and make fun of her, saying Pelosi prefers freedom over California communism. But actually, she wants to bring in the left to destroy Florida. Democrats are like kudzu. They spread, cover, and suffocate everything good and everyone in their path. Now, she's almost right. But a funny thing happens on the way to Florida. You see, kudzu will become a curse to the lazy. You see, if you have a kudzu infestation, this vine, and you don't bother to get out and dig it up at the root and get rid of it immediately, yeah, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem. You can get rid of kudzu vine. That's not a problem. It just takes work. This is from Tips Bulletin, How to Get Rid of Kudzu. It's well worth the effort to do. You see, Democrats are more like rats. Now, some people will be like, oh, here we go. You're going to demonize all Democrats. No, not all. You see, the forest rat, and I have them out here right behind the house, they're a blessing. They live in an ecosystem. They act as basically the little night janitors. They go out and they clean up the forest floor of all the little detritus and little things they can munch on. And they also provide a food source for larger predators, owls and hawks and different things. But they exist in balance with nature. And they're not a problem. However, what happens when rats get into a sewer or into a city and they overpopulate? They become a curse. They become a damnation. They were the cause of the Black Plague. This goes back historically. Rats and cities are a problem. Now, Nancy Pelosi coming to Florida would actually be a huge blessing because it would do so much to completely defeat the left's narrative of Death Santis and, oh, Florida is a wasteland of COVID, blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't she be feared for her life coming to Florida with all of our lax restrictions? There was even an article they put out, and I put a tweet up about it yesterday about Canada, how they're warning Canadians traveling to Florida about our lax restrictions, and people were just laughing. You see, you add the news about Nancy Pelosi wanting to move to Florida to the fact that Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough of MSNBC fame, the fact that they live here in Jupiter, Florida, right down the road from Don Jr. and his wife, Kim Guilfoyle. And then you add in the fact Don Lemon, who spent the last year demonizing Florida, was just caught vacationing here. And of course, everybody knows the story of Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, and her chief financial officer and her health leader that she appointed. All caught down here while telling their people to stay at home, mask up, and don't travel. You see, this would be huge. This would be the crowning glory of destroying their narrative and outing their hypocrisy. I hope she does find a beautiful place down in Hobie Sound and brings her money. That would do so much more than anything I could do here on YouTube. Third in line to the presidency, basically the chief Democrat of all Democrats for the last 50 years, decides to retire to Florida. You see, if what Marjorie Taylor Greene said was true, this would never have occurred. Voter registration gaps have plummeted since Obama. You see, this is what they aren't seeing. In 2012, Democrats had a voter registration advantage of 535,000. Through the Obama years, and over the last 4 years, especially the last 2, we have now completely erased a 500,000 vote advantage since Obama. Since Obama. You see, a funny thing happens on the way to Florida for Democrats. They change. You see, they don't come here and bring their other state Democrat values. They come here and become Republicans. And the reason they are coming here is because they've already changed their mind. The reason that they're coming here is because they've already changed their mind. They're not coming here to bring their Democratic values. How can I prove this? From 2012 to 2021, in 10 years? A 500,000 registered voter advantage has been erased. This is our House of Representatives. 2-1. 2-1 advantage. 60-40 advantage in the Senate. All conservative Supreme Court. Federalist Society members. Some people say, but what about that governor's race? DeSantis barely beat Gillum. Nobody knew much about DeSantis. But I'll tell you what, in this debate, go back and watch it and I'll give you the link. DeSantis crushed him. This guy came out of nowhere, Gillum, and had the backing of the entire national Democratic establishment, and they still couldn't win. And they still couldn't win. And look at now. Believe me, Gillum, or any other real Democrat, couldn't beat DeSantis. But I'd like to see any of them try to debate our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, or Laurel M. Lee, our Secretary of State, one I haven't mentioned much, but really could crush any Democrat on the national stage, or for that matter, our First Lady, or any of our representatives, Blaise Ngolia, Michael Waltz, Byron Donald. I mean, the list is just, people don't come here to Florida and bring their Democrat values and try to change Florida. People come to Florida because they see Florida the way it is and they want more of it. Because we have adults in charge. We have adults in charge that understand the proper balance of things. Anything can be a curse or a blessing when it is out of proportion. Anything can be a curse or a blessing when it's out of proportion. And the last thing I'll say to Marjorie Taylor Greene is you got a few problems you need to fix back home before you can start warning people about, oh, what's going to happen in Florida, or they're going to bring this to Florida. That Florida's not your business, ma'am. With respect, Florida is not your business. You see, you're new and you're young. Georgia could learn a few things from Florida about how to actually govern and how not to just sit back and wait for top-down fixes. You see, when a society like ours is veering away from the truth, quoting the governor here, those who tell the truth will face fire. That type of society goes after truth tellers more than anything because those who tell truth threaten their power. In times like these, there's no substitute for courage. I have a question. See anybody going after your governor? See any of the left? Is CNN worried about Brian Kemp? Is MSNBC worried about Brian Kemp? Did 60 Minutes try to take down Brian Kemp? No. Because he's no threat to their power. We are. So believe me when I tell you, if Nancy Pelosi wants to retire here, let her come. Let her come. See, Georgia has a rat problem. Tennessee has a rat problem. Because what's happened in these states, Georgia and Tennessee specifically, is these rats, politically active rats, have infiltrated the cities. Georgia and Tennessee have a problem, and it's that they have city urban dwellers and they have rural dwellers. They don't have suburbs. The suburbs are dying in these places, and that's where the real political power lies. Because rural folks are conservative, but they're too far and too spread out to have any real political power. The people who live in the urban centers are largely all liberals. How you defeat the left is the suburbs. How you defeat the left, how you win, is the suburbs, and that's the big secret of Florida. Most people, even though we have big cities, don't live in the cities. Most people that live in Florida do not live in the big urban centers. They live in the suburbs, and they have power. And that's why we've been able to flip things. That's why we have been able, let me find the right picture here, to take control of the state. And it's over for Democrats down here, and they know it. One final piece of proof. The National Democrat Governors Association has refused to provide any financing to Nikki Fried or Charlie Crist in their attempt to unseat Governor DeSantis in Florida. Usually they write out checks for millions of dollars for ad campaigns. They realize it is such a lost cause down here that the National Democratic Governors Association has refused to waste any money on Florida because they know it's lost. So, Miss Greene, with respect, before you talk about Florida, perhaps do a little research, do a little digging into history, and understand why we are leading and you are following. And I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. Have a happy Saturday, and we will see you guys next time.